Hey everybody, welcome to another top 5 albums of the week. I hope you're all doing good. I had to skip last week, which I don't think there was really many things I wanted to talk about, so I felt it would be easier to give myself a nice little week to take some time off for it, because there wasn't really much. But if anyone's really curious, my favourite album last week was Electric Callboy Tansnede. Not the biggest fan of it compared to Techno. I definitely think that's a much stronger album, but with the lack of stuff I really listen to, it kind of wins by process of elimination. By default, I would say is better, but I don't know, I still enjoyed it. I still think at the end of the day, it does what Electric Callboy's known for, with a kind of silly techno, electronical, trancecore blend with some pretty good ideas. But I do feel like this is kind of a techno too, and a lot of the assets to it is a little weaker in every way. But we're going to be going through this week's albums of the week, so let's start with the stuff that did make it into the top 5. I'll go through the EPs first. We have got the Golden Tastes EP by Ween. So Ween did drop their deluxe album of 12 Golden Country Greats, which honestly was pretty sick. I loved all the new stuff on there, and I think it's just pretty much like having the part 2 record release. The amount of stuff from the demos to the either unreleased stuff, all the unreleased stuff that's either had some sort of leak on the internet, and some stuff that I don't think people have actually heard of, which was what I liked about Chocolate and Cheese Deluxe. There was a bunch of songs I don't think anyone even knew existed, and we finally got to hear them. So yeah, this is pretty cool. The Golden Tastes is kind of playing with alternative versions of songs. Like, some of them are basically like really early in development, or just the band kind of experimenting and just trying something and just releasing it anyway, and I think it's quite cool. I don't anticipate this to be a fantastic release. It is literally just very older versions of the 4 songs that go on here, but they're pretty cool. I think it's a very nice little release, and it adds a little bit more of that coolness factor for the country album deluxe they released recently, so that's pretty cool. Last EP we got is Crawlers, Turn Off the TV. Crawlers dropped an album in 2024. I think it's their debut record, The Mess We Make, or Mess That We Made. I can't remember what the title is, but I didn't think it was too bad. I think it was kind of a nice blend. It's that indie rock sound. I think they bring some nice lively energy to it. It kind of gives you a little bit of that garage feel as well. But yeah, the EP doesn't really do anything too different. It kind of feels right at home. Some of the drum fill-ins that just kind of give you this nice little heavy moment here and there. It definitely feels like Crawlers. Nothing mind-blowing, but I think as an EP it's pretty decent. It's just 4 songs, doesn't really do anything wrong. And we have got 3 albums that did not make the top 5. So starting off with Saliva, Breaking Through. Just found this one kind of underwhelming, to be honest. I know they had Judge and Jury work on this one, and you can definitely tell Judge and Jury has collabed with numerous artists, especially bands that have been going for quite a bit, but as of lately they've just kind of simmered down and settled. I mean, the most popular thing I can think of Judge and Jury is always the Waiting on the Sky to Change collab between Starset and Breaking Benjamin, which was pretty solid, and I actually thought, is this the direction Starset's going to continue going with Judge and Jury? But ended up not being the case. Like, these guys are pretty chill. They are some of the people that helped work with 3 Days Grace in the past with production and writing, I believe. So it's quite nice, but Saliva's album here is just a bit bland. I think the first song really gives me the wrong impression, because it just literally feels like a knockoff Limp Bizkit from the Hey Ladies and sort of delivery as well. Just feels, I know Saliva's done stuff like that because obviously they're literally the same genre as Limp Bizkit, but minus any of the absolute great ideas that Limp Bizkit has, this just kind of comes off as another weak Saliva record, so I'm not really the biggest fan of it. Destroy My Brains, Will. A pretty unheard of record. I don't think this band's really got much followers. I gave this one a listen, and they've been going for quite a bit, so it's surprising they've never really hit any success, but this album just sounds pretty rough for a sludge metal release. It just kind of has this very awful feel in its production, and I understand the reason behind it might be budget reasons, the fact that the band literally only has like a few hundred monthly listeners, but I don't know, I literally listened to this one, and I think there is something with the vocals as well I'm not really a fan of. I just kind of feel like everything pieced together kind of creates this a bit more of a amalgamation of potential that doesn't quite reach it. I don't know. I feel like there is definitely some fat people that like this, but yeah, I'm not really a big fan of it, to be honest. I kind of find this one a bit hard to listen to. And finally, the last one, which is the worst album of this week. Smash Mouth, Mercury Comet. What the absolute hell is this? This is one of the worst albums I've heard this year. It kind of feels like very much prototype Smash Mouth if it was just regurgitated by an algorithm. It is so boring and painted by the numbers of how to continue tarnishing the reputation and legacy of the band. The band started off with one or two pretty good albums, and then it kind of dived down a bit, but this is absolutely the kind of rock bottom of it. It sounds terrible. I think there's not really one song that has anything standout worthy. There's not really any good instrumentation. I just find the writing is just so boring here, and everything is just so underwhelming and just bland. The singles they released as well, the fact that they just used these blatant AI covers for the singles really didn't get me interested, and then when the album came on, I was absolutely bored out of my head. This is an absolutely disappointing album for sure. I did not care for this one. And that's the way it is going to stay. And as I'm looking on my list, I did forget I have one more, so let's talk about this one. And the last one is Marilyn Manson, One Assassination Under God Part 2, because I was not sure if I wanted to continue talking about this or even mention it all. I kind of was umming and erring about it, but eventually I decided, yeah, screw it, I'll talk about it. Marilyn Manson, One Assassination Under God Part 2, I just find kind of underwhelming, for sure. I feel like it does have essences of Marilyn Manson's kind of older music in there. It definitely continues an interesting way of that gothic industrial metal sound, which, I mean, props to Brian for that, but I don't know, I just feel like a lot of these songs aren't really clicking with me. The writing isn't terrible, and I do think there is some interesting moments with the vocal performance, and some of the instrumentals aren't too bad, but at times it definitely reminds me of kind of a more industrial AWOL Nation. I don't know if that's just me, but I don't know, it kind of feels like it might be better than part 1. I don't really remember part 1 necessarily, but I wasn't really impressed with this either, and this has nothing to do with my views on the Marilyn Manson situation that's been going on for a good few years, but I don't think that necessarily helps in this case either. I'm not rating it lower just because of that. I don't really care for the album anyway, but it's harder to make me like the guy and his music more when that stuff still lingers around and I don't even know what the hell's going on with it. Anyway, let's go into the top 5, because there has been quite a bit of negativity and I really just want to get into the better stuff. So number 5, we have King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Alien Metal. The last album on this video I don't really like. I'm gonna admit this is probably the first time a King Gizzard album just doesn't really do much for me. I like the idea that they play with techno, EDM, house, and give you kind of this weird fusion. It does create some interesting stuff, like Level 5 is a nice track, and the opening track Sapience isn't too bad either. But the problem I have with this King Gizzard release is that it just feels kind of like a weird imitation of the genre in a way. I feel like they do put their own DNA in there at points, but I kind of just feel like once you get to the first few songs, after the first song or two, it doesn't really get much better for me. I think there's a few highlights in the second half, but the last two songs, the fourth track, I really find these just to be kind of dull. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but I mean, it's not the fact they went electronic at all. I quite like the Silver Chord review back in 2023. I mean, it wasn't as good as the other album of 2023, Petrodragonic Apocalypse, but it was still decent. I just feel like Alien Metal just has this absolute like kind of hype to it. It was like it's the main album of the year sort of treatment, unless there is another one, but normally King Gizzard, they will have one main album and then kind of just have another little gimmick project. I mean, Phantom Island wasn't too bad for last year. I actually enjoyed this one a decent bit, but no, I just feel like Alien Metal was just kind of a bit disappointing, which, yeah, I hate to say that because King Gizzard is probably one of the most creative and experimental groups going, and I mean, I guess it's nice they tried to play with these elements, but I just found Alien Metal to be kind of underwhelming. I guess it's just not for me, but I mean, hey, at least King Gizzard fans can play this type of music at raves now, so I guess that's a bonus. Number 4, we have Raunchy Prisoner. From the ugly AI in the music videos to the album art, which I just find it funny that the kind of way it looks like the O is a toilet paper. Don't know if that's intentional, but since it looks very much like AI, I don't really give a shit if it is. The music itself isn't too bad. I just feel like when you have this presentation of AI slop, it is really hard to get into your record and music. But Raunchy, yeah, this isn't a bad album. It plays with some kind of electronic cyber stuff here and there, which is interesting, but as a whole, it is just kind of a standard metalcore album at the end of the day. It's nothing inoffensive, it sounds fine, it's decently produced, just kind of there in my opinion, so yeah, that's what I have to say with it. Number 3, the Absolution Sequence, Dread Cycle, an interesting technical death metal album. I do think the second half does kind of feel a bit jarring, I guess. It isn't quite reel me in as much as I want to, but I think this has still got some good stuff, and I can see people liking it. It's a very interesting album for me personally. It's one of the best ones of this week, and if you're looking for something technical like that, I definitely think this album might be for you. Number 2, we have Coyote Man, Prosthetic Memories. Yeah, this instrumental metal band is actually pretty interesting. I found this album to be quite a fun ride. There's some great riffs, and honestly some pretty good melodies, and I love the way that they just kind of burst into a new flavour when it comes to each track opening up. So yeah, Coyote Man, definitely an underrated one. I don't think many people already talked about this one either, but I feel that this one is pretty solid, so I'd recommend this one. And finally, album of the week. Surprised by this one, honestly, but it's another debut. There's been quite a few of them this time, or at least a couple, more than usual. But we have Evil Island, Terraform, The Afterlife. I think it's from the fact that we kind of have this more post-hardcore, sasscore, screamo sort of blend that gives us a very fun energy to it. The songs kind of feel like sometimes you'll get essences of My Chemical Romance before you kind of get into the lot more aggressive, shoutier vocals that honestly remind me of Catalysm from this year at least. I like the kind of blend we have with this, and I think as a whole the album sounds pretty solid. There's a lot of differences between the songs. There is some really fun moments as well to be had with this record, and I felt surprised that this was my favourite of the week. I felt like there was definitely a lot of metal stuff that could have done it, but unfortunately this week there was also a lot of stuff I really didn't care for. I think Smash Mouth and Destroy My Brains are some of my least favourite albums of the year, and a lot of them just kind of felt either mid or just good, minus Coyote Man. So it's nice that we actually had a pretty solid album to end off with. So yeah, that's my album of the week. So I'm looking forward to next week. I think one of the ones I'm definitely looking forward to listening to is the Barbarians of California, as I really enjoyed the debut record, and I think this is one of Aaron Bruno's best projects yet. I like AWOL Nation, but personally I think that kind of it feels like he wanted to go into a more metal, hard rock sound, especially with how much of the uncleans he kind of does and puts into these songs. I feel like Aaron Bruno really works in that place. So yeah, that is pretty much everything I want to mention with this week. So I'm looking forward to what next week has in store other than what I mentioned, and yeah, hope you'll enjoy. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.